Hello, for you who don't know me, I'm Weston from North of Tyne Mountain Rescue Team. Today we're going to do a bit of online training. Because of the pandemic that's going on, unfortunately I've got to do this from home. It's going to be a little bit awkward. You'll just have to bear with me because I'm just with my daughter Maddie, who's part of the team, trainee. We're going to go through a steep ground lower. So this involves setting the stretcher up, setting the ropes up on the anchor pins, and then we'll be attaching it to a petrol ID. We're doing a lower, stretcher lower, and then we'll do a raise as well. We're just going to set up the stretcher. It's a bit awkward, we're just two, but Maddie's going to hold the bottom of the stretcher, and I'm going to stick the head of the stretcher. And then what we'll do now is we'll unloosen these pins, and these attach. I don't know if you can see from there. These attach through the pins through here, and then just tighten them hand tight. And then the ones from under here, if you can see, slacken them off, pull the pin out, and transfer them to the side. Pin through, and tighten up hand tight again. Just to show you what we've been doing, just tighten the pins up, then there, and then lay the stretcher down. We need for the steep ground lower is all in this crag bag here, this blue bag. So what we've got here in this little bag here, the petrol ID, got a pulley, a rescue sender, which opens by pulling these two tabs and pulling that out. Rigging plate, second rigging plate, and then we need the 3 pins which we've got set out here. The cordelet, which has got it on the bag, belay anchor cord, that's for the pins. Carabiners, that's written on the bag as well. And then slings. Just need a few of these slings to set up. And also we need a blue working line here to lower the stretcher. Right, before we move into the area to start setting the ropes up for the steep lower, we're going to have to put on our PPE, which is our harness, personal harness, our team helmet, and personal gloves as well, if you've got them. When you're working with ropes, you should really wear gloves for rope burns and things like that. And our first stage of setting this rope system up is knocking these pins in, ground anchors. And what we need to do to get these in, we need to get them down about 2/3 of the way into the ground, which is, I would say, somewhere about there where my finger is. But because we're working outside my house, I don't really know what's under here. I don't think there's any surfaces, so I'm not going to knock them right in. I'm just going to have them about there. We don't want any more accidents with surfaces in any builds. Now we're going to go on to setting the cordelets up round the pins, which is includes all clove hitches. So starting with a cordelet, which is in the crag bag. I'm going to start at the middle. Do you want to come a bit closer, Paddy? I'm going to start from the middle pin and we're going to make a clove hitch. Hopefully everybody knows how to do a clove hitch by now. If not, just look on YouTube. Clove hitch on the middle pin, pull it tight. Then I'm going to move down to the front pin. This is the way I do it, which is clove hitch. And as you can see, if you want to come down this side, Maddie, the clove hitch there is running the same side as this clove hitch here. You see that? And just pull it tight. Then I'm going to go back round this side of the pin, so it's going to continue round the loop. With another clove hitch. Here. So as you can see, that clove hitch there comes around, so nothing's crossed. Yeah, and then just tighten that up. And what I'm going to do then is come up to the top of this front pin with another clove hitch. You'll be able to see that better now that clove hitch is coming round that side, coming round this side, tighten it up, and it's going to come back down to the bottom on another clove hitch. Keeping that pretty tight. And that's the first set of ground anchors set up. And all we'll do for the second set is repeat this step back here with another set of cordelet. Try and do this a little bit quicker. Start at the back again, clove hitch, just leave a little, maybe a little bit extra on the end for slippage. Back down to the, which would have been the front pin, but now the middle. Again, tighten it up. Back up to the top. Forgot to say at the start of this, these pins need to be leaning back at about 15 degrees. That's the way we're going to lower, so they just need to be slightly back from the direction that we're going to be lowering from. So if you have a closer look, Paddy, all clove hitches and nothing's crossed over. They're all running round nicely. So when you look, when I pull on the front pin, which is going to be our directional pull off the stretcher, everything tightens up. See that? just to remember that these pins should be further down. Right, we're now going to go in to start setting up the system, which involves your petzl IDs, your rigging plates, ropes to the stretcher. So we'll start by, first I should say, if there was, obviously there's going to be more than just me and another person doing this, it would probably be about 8 to 10 people setting this system up. So once somebody's setting the pins up, somebody else can be doing this and somebody else can be setting the stretcher up, so we'd have this all set up in under 10 minutes, if not quicker. But obviously the situation we're in, it's just me. So we're going to start with a sling, and what we're going to do is to the first pin, to the directional of where the stretcher is, we're going to go and come in between this cordlet. So we're going to come, can you see that there? Going to come in between it like that. And the join in the sling here, we want to try and keep that out the way of all the working parts. So we'll just slide that further up towards the pin. That's good practice in any sort of system setups. Put our rigging plate in and tighten up the carabiner. This piece of hessian on here is to put all the working parts on. So if we're out in the field and there's loads of leaves and twigs and everything in the way, this all just sits on here and we don't lose anything. Just makes things easier. So again, another sling, keeping the join out the way. Down to our petzl ID. That's the top of the petzl ID there where it clips in here. In this part of the system here, for demonstrational purposes and training, I've just set this up with a short sling down, which is our focal point here, is where everything comes together. But this bit here can be done with a 50-metre rope, depending on what the distance is that we might need to get further down, we might need to get over a little bit of a lump in the ground or a hill. So that could be further down there, so you might have to use the 50-metre rope to set this up. If you want to come over the top here, Mary. So from here we're setting up our petzl ID, and that's the way it clips in there. So the carabiner clips into the top, and then that little plastic piece there, you can open that. So it just saves you taking that off all the time. So you put the rope in and then clip that back in. So now, before we set the rope up, we're going to go down and set the stretcher up and put the slings onto there. Again, 2 short slings. We can even make them shorter if we wanted to. Head of the stretcher with a head guard on, that's the head of the stretcher. Obviously, if this was a call out, there would be somebody in the stretcher, there would be a medic sorting the person out in the stretcher. We would just be dealing with the rope system. So clip that in, tighten your carabiner up, same size sling. Tighten your carabiner up. And they don't have to be really tight. Just again, tighten them up, and what I do, I always take a little half turn back off them, just so they're not ball breaking tight. Carabiner. Into another rigging plate. tighten them up. That's the stretcher set up. Now we'll go into the rope. So we've got our blue working line here in the rope bag. We have two of these, we've got a blue and a red one, the same length. The reason we use different colours is when we're working with a vertical lure, we need to use two ropes, and we can just differ from one rope to the other, so we can see and use the different speeds of the rope and try and keep them all running at the same speed. So if one's working on red, they know stop the red or other things like that. And what I do is, which is good practice again, is when I take the rope out the bag, I flake my rope out. So I'll get the end of the rope and just flake it out on the ground. What you tend to find is when you pull all your ropes out the bag, they'll be knotted, and then you'll put them in the system and you'll have knots in your ropes or kinks. This is just good practice to get all the knots out, see, like that. So that's been left in the rope bag like that. So if I hadn't flaked this rope out, it would have ran through and I would have found a knot in, which could have caused trouble. Right, we flaked the rope out and we made sure that there's no knots, kinks, anything in the rope, everything's good to go. So we're going to start by tying a figure 8 in this end of the rope. By now hopefully everybody knows how to tie a figure of 8, so I'm not going to show you. But what we want is, we'll try and keep this loop as small as we can and dress your knot nicely. Try and get it even smaller if we can. Something like that, yeah. Now we're going to attach this figure of 8. We've got the stretcher set up again, just to recap, 2 slings into the stretcher carabiners, carabiner into the rigging plate, and another carabiner coming off for the figure of 8. Tighten that up. And then run this blue line. Run this blue line up to our petzl ID. So on the petzl ID, you've got a rope with a loop on it. Can you see that? Mm-hmm. And you've got a rope with a hand on it. And coming from the stretcher, we want to run the rope into the rope with a loop onto it. It comes in like that. And then this rope comes into here. We've got a carabiner on here to take that rope over the top of it. And now what we're going to do, once this is all set up and safe, we're going to go around and check the system. So I would either nominate somebody to go around and check all the system, or if nobody's confident enough to go around and check it, I will check it all myself. All that entails is just checking that the cordelet's set round the pins right, the sling's okay, the carabiner's right. Carabiners, see, so we've identified a problem here. This carabiner is the wrong way around. So what's happening there is that carabiner is could potentially run on the ground there and come undone. So just going to flick that round like that, tighten it up, check that airtight. run down the line. Stretcher carabiners are tight, 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 tight. Knots okay. Everything's okay. Right, for demonstrational purposes, it's going to be awkward for us to just tool it to show you how this stretcher pulls down and how to use the petrol ID. But what I'm going to ask Maddie to do is just to pull on the rope, and I'm going to show you that how easy it is to use this petrol ID. Just to say that that position there is in the locked position, so that's the position it should be in before we start. And before we start, again, we've done with checks. Everything's safe. All the carabiners are done up. The slings are all right. The rope's right. It's in the right way. We've checked that. Everything good. We're personnel on the stretcher. Hopefully about 8 personnel on the stretcher. We'd have somebody in front of the stretcher, just in case there's any rocks or divots or anything that they're going to walk into. We'd have somebody on the petrol ID, and I would have somebody behind us just feeding this rope through here, feeding it through here. So there, again, I'm just checking that there's no knots, twigs, sticks, anything going into that might jam up this system. So now we're just going to try and demonstrate how to pull this through and how it works. So if Maddie pulls on that now, we'll show you that it's not going to pull through. So what I've got to do is, I've just got to take the weight of this. I can just, if she starts pulling now, I can just feel that, just starting to pull there. That's as easy as it is. And then if I let go, it stops. Again, reset, back round. Just starting to feel it go there now. And then stop. So the commands for this would be ready to lower, and everybody would give us a yes, okay, we're ready to lower, and then I would shout lower. And this commands would come from the crag leader, and he would be standing to one side, not doing anything or giving the commands and checking everything. But anybody at any time, any part of the team can shout stop, and then you would lock off and the system would stop, and then they would adjust whatever they need to do, adjust their clothing or helmets, or they've got something in the eye, and then it would start again from the crag leader saying ready to lower, lower, and then it would be stop and lock off. Right, we've been lowering the stretcher down, and we've come to a point where we can't get down any further. We need to raise the stretcher up. Could be for a number of reasons. We could have to get over, I don't know, some rocky ground, or we need to raise it out the way to get over something that we can't get over. So we need to put a raise into the system by using a rescue sender. This is the rescue sender here. Pulley and a carabiner. And the way we do this is, first of all, we've got to take this rope out of this carabiner here. This is the rope that's attached to the big coil of rope. And I always do, when I set up the rescue sender, I always do it close to my petrol ID, so I don't get confused what rope's going where, and if you've done it further down you might get confused. It's just easier doing it on the mat. So on the rescue sender, we've got an up arrow on the one side of it, and that up arrow goes towards the stretcher, that points towards the stretcher. And how you open it is, you've got 2 black lugs on both sides. You pull both them at the same time, and you pull that out like that. Pull that out the way. The up arrow goes down towards the stretcher on the main line, so the rope that's attached to the stretcher, that goes in, and then you push that, so these 2 lugs go back in here until you hear it click there. Yeah, you see that? And the other rope that comes out of the petrol ID here, the pulley goes on, carabiner through your rescue sender and clipped into your pulley like that. Make sure you do your carabiner up again. So there's a way of telling that you put this on the right way. goes down, but it shouldn't come up, which it doesn't there. If it comes up, you've put it on the wrong way. It comes up when you take the tension off it, but when you've got tension on, it shouldn't come up. So we want to raise the stretcher. So we're doing all that double check, everything's tightened up, everything's in the right position. There's commands to raise as well as lower. So simple commands is ready to raise and raise. So again, that will come from the crag leader. So we'll try and do this raise even though there's just two of us here. What we're going to do is I'm going to pull this down and hopefully the two will be able to do it. So you get one person just to pull this rescue sender down as far as you can. So everybody's ready in position, ready to raise. The command's given, ready to raise. Or could be ready to hold, just keep it, we're ready to raise for now. So we're ready to raise. Raise would unlock the petrol ID, and the reason for doing this is so this rope runs freely around the petrol ID and it's not getting jammed up if it's locked off. And then you'd have 2 or 3 people on the line we're going to raise with. So here we go. As you can see, it's running freely through the petrol ID. And the stretcher's pulling up. Right, we've just finished the steep slope, lower and raise. We're now going to go on, just touch onto a bit of another anchor. What we're going to do is set an anchor up around these 3 trees here, which could happen out in the field. If we can't get our pins in, or there's no other anchors, we could use boulders as long as they're secure enough and they're not going to pull. These trees are quite big trees, and what you want to try and get at is something as long as it's maybe bigger than the width of your helmet, and make sure I ain't gonna come down. There's nothing rotten, the trees are all living and secure and they're not going to pull. So what I've done is I've just attached some slings around the trees and put a carabiner in them, right round the bottom of them. Make sure nothing's obstructing the sling. I've done that to all 3 trees. And what we want to try and do is we want to focal point here where the mat is. We've got to go to the tree, back again, to the second tree and back again, to the third tree and back again, and just tie an overhand knot, which we'll call a big fat knot. That's what we're trying to do, and that's going to be our anchor point set up. So if I start from here, let's clip it into the carabiner, tighten that up, come back to the focal point, again it's something 2 people can do this one. Back down to the tree, clip it into the carabiner here, that's into the sling, tighten the carabiner up. And that rope back to the focal point, back to the carabiner on the sling, making sure the sling's round the base of the tree, and back to the focal point. Now what we need to do is equalise these 3 anchor points. And the way we do that is get a hold of all 3, and this is easier with the second person if they help out here. Just going to pull that through a bit. second person now comes in, and we can adjust that to where we want it. So we want all that rope there tied into one big knot at this point here. So what we do is, if Maddie can do it and video at the same time, we'll equalise them points down. So all them ropes are pulling at the same pressure. As you can see there on the video, can you see that?
Yep.
They're all pulling. The way I do it is come back about a metre and then get Maddie to hold it back here. So all that tension's still the same, and then I tie this. It just makes it easier for me to tie the knot up here. So if I just tie an overhand knot here, again trying to keep this knot nice and neat, and these loops here all coming out the same and nice and neat, so there's no kinks in it. So you need something looking like that. Right, let go. So when you pull, they're all pulling the same. There's not one bit of slack in the rope, because that would mean that each anchor point wasn't tensioned the same. So that's quite good. They're all pulling the same. And then what we do then is attach this the same way we attached the pins at the top. So there's the anchor point set up. Now we can go in, put the sling in, and then put the petrol ID in. But we've already covered that in the other video. This is just to show how to set another anchor system up. Right, I hope you all enjoyed that video. Probably the first time I've done one of these videos, so hopefully there'll be no negative comments. If there is, just do them personally, please. But hopefully something you can take away and have a look at. Just to recap, a couple of points from my past experiences. When you're taking things to call outs on crags, it's best to check what's in each bag. Don't just pick up a bag expecting things to be in that bag. It only takes a minute. Just open the crag bag, and it's got a list on the back of the crag bag what's in it. Just check that you've got your carabiners, you've got your petrol IDs, you've got your, there's the cordlets in there. Just check everything's in that bag, and check that the right rope's in the right bag. Somebody says pick the 50-metre rope up, you haven't went and picked the wrong rope up. It's probably better the other way, where you've picked the 50-metre rope up and you need 100, so just be careful that you're picking the right gear up, and just double check, because I've done it where I've picked up gear and it's not in the right bag, or something's missing in the bag, and you get all the way to a call out, which could be a mile walk, it could be 2 miles, I don't know, it could be quite a walk, and you get there and you haven't got the right kit. So that's a personal thing. It's best to check that you've got. So if the team leader tells you to pick the crag bag up, make sure that the right gear's in the bag. So just a quick recap on the setup: putting the pins in a metre apart at a 15-degree angle, leaning back from where the stretcher's down there. You're leaning back 15 degrees, and they're a metre apart, and into the ground 2/3. So 1/3 is sticking out, 2/3 is into the ground. I know we couldn't do that here, but that's because we're not out. We could have hit something which I didn't want to. And then we've either got a rope coming down, or we've got a sling coming down, depending on how far you need to be down to your focal point. We'll then go into a petrol ID. We'll then go into a blue rope or a red rope, which is 100 metre, onto a rigging plate, and then that's attached into a short slings onto a stretcher. And please just make sure that we double check everything's done up and everything's correct. Double check it, get somebody else to check it. And the other thing is commands. Just make sure that these commands one person's given the commands, but if anybody ever wants to stop, they can just say stop, and everybody stops, locks off, and finds out what the problem is, sorts the problem out. The other thing is the last anchor point was set up. That could be 3 trees, it could be boulders, it could be pins and trees. There's quite a few different scenarios of where we can set anchor points up from. But for this we just need one unquestionably sound anchor, which in this instance was the pins, which was a brilliant anchor. So hopefully I think you'd have gained a bit of knowledge from that. People that didn't know this off by heart, which most people in the team should, but it is hard when you're not out training all the time. So thanks for your time. Thank you.